our artist space here.
It's a big one.
It's a big one, that's right. Yeah, this has to get dropped off.
It turned out pretty nice.
Oh my God, it's beautiful. Are you kidding? I'll see you later. That's he. He built the costume. Hey, welcome to my channel. I want to talk today about presenting such a beautiful raw to the core, like, ground level riveting. So I want to actually produce these rivets. We're going to make them out of a steel wire. This is all the way back to my origins. So years and years ago, many of you guys know me for my jewelry, and many of you know me for my silversmithing work, my bodies of work that I build. I bring this book up a lot of times. This is a book that I wrote over a decade ago, which is so crazy to me. But this was all about riveting and cold joins in jewelry for mostly mixed media artists and silversmiths. So this is a great project for all artists, which is why I love, love, love this subject of cold joints and rivets today. So this is how to attach wood, how to attach fiber, how to attach plastics and how to attach anything together, metal on metal, how to attach anything together. Beautiful pieces with patina. So for me, this is my origins and where I started from. So I'm really excited to show this today. As we know, when you're designing jewelry or when you're designing anywhere in the world, I always talk about using 90% of your work should be your own authentically, and then you kind of pick up your head, pack things away for a little bit, go out into the world, maybe do a museum, look around at what's fashionable, go shopping for clothes, or go just look around at things. Then you come back to your work, and it's just important maybe to jump that little bit of what is popular, sometimes, and that really helps to get your work out there in the mainstream sometimes, if you're looking for that. If you enjoy industrial jewelry, it's like you can see an interior design where there's a lot of people that are converting factories and moving into factories, especially out here like in Chicago and Ohio, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh, places like that. A lot of these old factories are being converted into living spaces. And with that, you can see all the ductwork and the rivets in here and just things put together raw. So for me, I grew up in Chicago, so I feel like a lot of my passion for this work comes from that area. But for two, when I was out of art school, I started really being fascinated. I used to travel and collect pieces from around the world. Little personal objects is what I really loved. These talisman and personal objects that were so valuable to me and to other people. But while I was traveling, I also was very interested. I'd scour museums and I'd look to see how pieces were made way back in time before we sat at our desks and even did our silversmithing. So, for that time, it's like I walked around the world and I looked at how ducks were put together and riveted. And I was like, wow, that's a bezel box form. And I looked at how, hinges were made and how airplanes were riveted and how industrial, buildings had rivets and frames that were made to fit glass, like bezels on the glass and different things like that. So that was one of my fascinations. And that led me to writing, Making Connections. But I want to tell you, which is a whole book compiled of all different cold joints. But I want to tell you, I'm going to be going over a lot of new, fresh ideas that are so updated. So I know this book is hard to find. A lot of people ask me to republish it. But I think what my plan is to just really kind of rewrite and build new work and really make it relevant to this time. So that's what you're going to see from me. To start with, I wanted to show you, I've got some of these beautiful, beautiful locks that I just actually bought. I used to travel through India. These are from Nagaland. I used to travel through Thailand and down into South America, Central America, and collect beautiful, beautiful pieces. And there's some close-ups of these in here. But these have gorgeous rivets in there. So these are some of the things that really sparked my thinking on how can I put things together in this way. Not that I want to build a lock, but these are actually hollow forms. These locks, you can see in the side when I open them, you can see that they're hollow forms and they can be put together with tube riveting in here, which is really interesting. There's layers and layers of riveting. So I want to today start with the simplest of simple. And even this lock and key is a whole way of a cold join, right? Because it actually, this is a particular cold join in your work and it opens and closes. It's a join, it connects, it attaches. So that's the interesting part of it. So, you can use, I want to show you one of the reasons that it's so relevant to use these type of rivets is that you can take pieces that have a beautiful patina on them and rivet it together. Like these, I don't want to hurt the patinas at all. So I'm just going to keep it this way. And this is where you want to use a rivet in your work. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that and we'll get started in just a minute. The interesting thing is that once again, I really like putting together these little inexpensive toolkits. And in this book right at the end, I have setting up a whole cold join studio. And I say under 1,000, but you can do it for like 250 or 350. Let me know if you guys are interested, because I certainly can put this together for you and get the links back on here again too, as we move forward with cold joints. So some of the material that we're gonna need for today is, I actually got this from Home Depot. This is a 16 gauge steel galvanized wire. It's not the black color, which is nice. It's just a steel, which means that it could get rusty in your work. I'm gonna show you, it's like you can use any type of wire you like. You can use bronze or silver or steel, but I like steel in this case because it holds up, it's super strong. It's a super, super strong metal. And then I'll show just different ways you can use. You always want to use hard wire when you're riveting. So this is dead soft though. Galvanized means that it's softened, and it's dead soft because steel is such a strong metal that it's going to really hold up well in my piece. Okay, another thing you're going to need is an anvil. I just have my little anvil here, and then a pad to put underneath it, or you could put leather underneath it just to help with the bounce. I'm going to use a riveting hammer, which there's some rivets, if you think about the way that a Phillips is created is with an X. So there's some ways, I'm not going to show you that one today, but I'll show you this has a little bit of a rounded edge for creating a nail head. So your purpose when you're creating your nail head is we're just spreading the metal out so it looks like a flat nail head. And you can see the example in the locks that I have here. You're just spreading it all the way out so you get a good nail head on there. And this type of hammer is going to do it well. If you don't, you can also use something like this if you have a lot more room. I always love using my big hammers. As long as it has a little curve on here, you can use it for riveting. I'm going to use either a 1/16 drill bit that comes from the hardware store or a 52. And that actually, one of the rules with riveting is you need an exact fit when you're making your own nails. So this is the point where it matches the 16 gauge matches a 52 drill bit or a 1/16 at the hardware store. So that's kind of some of the things that are important. Here's some of the rules that are important when you're building your rivets. One of them is it has to be an exact match. Number two, it has to be metal on metal. No matter, you can put anything you want to in between. You could put paper, you could put plastic, you could put wood, you can put anything in between, but at least on the outside there has to be a nut or a tiny little sheet of metal that makes it metal to metal. That's rule 2. Rule 3, when I'm drilling, I have to hold my drill straight up and down, and I'll go through all of them as you go. You know, when later on, especially if you're doing tubes, but you can't come in from the side. You can't set a rivet on the other side from the side. So, and there are a few more, but I'm going to talk about those as we get going. So this is the material that I'm using, and I'm using my vise. You'll get to see my vise right here. I just cleaned it up. When I'm working with steel, I love a vise that doesn't have the padding on the inside. It's just straight up steel. If I'm working with a softer metal like bronze or sterling silver, in that case, I'll actually bring in more of a padded vise, and you'll get to see mine. It's just raw. It's from the hardware store. A lot of my work here that I started doing came right from the hardware store, so this is super fun. All right, you guys, come on in. This is a piece of the 16 gauge wire. And what's important, these are flush cutters. They actually will cut a tabletop on this side. On this side, it looks like a pinch. So what I want to do is once my piece is cut, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to center these so it will be super flat. See how I've got this situated? My top is going to look like a tabletop. So I always put my finger on the top so the pieces don't go flying across the room. We used to have that before. We'd have a lot of students in the room. There would be metal going across the room. So now this is like a tabletop on top. See that? That's always the way that you want to start. And if you're having any type of trouble whatsoever, you can go in and just hit it across with a file just a couple times just to make sure it's as flat as a tabletop as you can get it. Okay, this is my anvil. This is just from the hardware store that I talked about. I love, this is metal, so I can really squeeze this steel in here. If you're working with sterling silver or another type of material, you want to be careful. You can't squeeze it in this tight. So I'm going to close this up. And I just want this sitting a little bit above. You don't want it to sit it up too high. There we go. Just a little bit. Because it's steel, like I said, I can get it in here real tight. And then what I'm going to do, I could either, on this side, I'm going to show you working with my large hammer. On the other side, I'll use my little one. This is the only time that I put my finger like this. Normally when you're hammering, you cannot, but I'm going to use 100 little taps. So I'm just going to start. Let this be music to your ear. You don't need anything aggressive. Just let the weight of the hammer work for you. And I have my hand underneath here. I'm just kind of supporting the wire so it doesn't slip down. I'm just pulling it out at all angles. Giving myself a little flair. Might sound loud, but it's not too loud. I just need the tiniest little flare, and I could feel it. It's a nice flare. Get a little bit more. There, I've got it now sitting right flush up against the top, so I can see what a beautiful nail head I have here. Very, very nice. Okay, I'm going to pull this out, and because it's steel, you guys can see that. See this beautiful nail head on here? There's a little bit of a lip. I'm just checking to make sure my wire is not damaged at all, even though I put it in here super tight. So this is actually a really good way to get started, you know, if you want to start riveting. Just going to make sure it's nice and straight. Remember I was saying your rivet has to be straight? Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the piece that I am riveting together. So this is actually the piece that I decided I love the patina. These are two different objects, and I've had this object for a long time. I love the patterning on here. I think this one I got from East Africa. I just love the way it's worn. And this is where I really started my riveting from, because both these pieces, they're just really beautiful old pieces, you know. And of course, you know, you can make things bright and beautiful too. But I thought this would be a good way to show creating a piece like this, getting negative space. So I do know that I need to create 2 rivets if I'm going to rivet this down, and one needs to be here and one needs to be there. If you're ever just putting 1 rivet at the top, you're going to have your metal wiggle. So I do know that I need 2 of them in, possibly 3, but here's what the back looks like. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to work my rivets from the back, because then I can get an exact, or at least I'm going to drill it from this direction. And then from the front, this will be my nicer rivet, and this one will go in here just beautifully. So come on over, I'm going to do a drill, and I'm going to drill from the back. Another one of the rules that I told you that I would talk about as we got going is that you only want to set, even though I know I'm setting 2 rivets in here, I only want to set 1 rivet at a time. Because when you set 2 rivets, you end up, you know, if I drilled all the holes for 2 rivets to set, by the time I go into the second, after I set the first, my holes will be shifted in the wrong way. So this is why it's, you know, it's really important just to do one side at a time. Okay, so remember I said I want the idea of going in from the back. This is the front. So I do know I'm going to put my first rivet right here. And this is just a mark. This is just like a, I try not to let it go all the way through. This is a punch. You can use a center punch. You can use a punch like this. And I'm just going to drill straight through here. This is with my, remember when I said you have to have an exact bit? So you want to make sure these are nice and oiled up. I'm just going to oil this a little bit up in here. A little bit of oil. And I'm going to come in from the top and just very gently, don't push anything against it, just let it go through on its own. There we go. Okay. Okay, these both have the patinas. And then I'm going to set this right on here. Okay, let's see exactly where I want it. Let me lay it this way. It's hard to sometimes show you and keep my hands. I can see in here, straight down through this hole, I can see this is going to be a good drill because I could see the metal in back of it. So I'm going to hold this ready. Let me look and see if everything's in straight. How can I do this? I'm just going to drill with my left hand. So I'm going to push this down, and I'm going to still drill very, very gently. Just get it started. Okay, voila. I have my hole through here. See where this is at. Beautiful. Look at how it went nice and clean. I have a clean hole right in here, right? Okay. Now I'm going to, this will be my rivet. You guys will get to see it. Look at how beautiful that fit is. Look at how beautiful it's sitting. I just need it backed out a little bit. Back this out a little bit. So I have to set, there we go. Look at how great that looks in there. Don't worry about this side. Once I get this side set, see that? Actually, the rivet works beautifully, and this is where I like using the steel. So you just have to remember that you can't put steel in the pickle. So this cannot go in the pickle, even if you're doing all silver or all bronze. Okay, now I'm going to lay my piece over this way. So you can see here, this is a good one. You have to have exactly flat. So look what the problem is here. It's wobbly if I set it from the back. But still, I love the cleanest rivet in the front. That's so pretty. And my back one may not be as beautiful as this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this on the edge and work with my piece on the edge. Isn't that a good idea? Okay. So once I have this done, there we go. Okay, once I have this done, I'm going to get in. Can you guys see that? No? Here we go. Now you can see it. I just have to keep my hands differently. Now, you want to rest your pliers on the bottom. This is going to snap. Okay. This is about all you need. Can you see that? Can you get in there real close? Let's see. That might even be a little much, but we'll see. I think I can do it. This one, the first one, I can work down. And remember, I'm on the back side, so I can actually have this a little longer. Okay, look at how gentle these are. Get in the right place, hold this in the right. Okay, remember how, this way I'm not as exaggerated because the hammer is smaller, but literally I still am pulling outward. So you can see I'm starting to get a really nice nail head here. This would hold, but it would be loose, so I'm going to keep working it. Are you surprised at how thick steel wire is, but how I can work this like butter? Okay, I'm going to keep it like that for now. It's a nice one that's set in here, but I still have this kind of movement. I can always, once I get my other side set, I can always go in and make this tighter, which is what I think I'm going to do. So as long as I'm riveting this, okay, here we go. I think it's going to be a pretty cool piece. I'm going to come in from the top. I could either, once again, because I can move this around, I want to put my hole exactly where I need to put it. So let's see. Ooh, it almost is exactly where this wire is, but let's see. I think I can do it right here so it matches. Okay. Let's see if that's going to work well. There we go. Well, I think I'd rather put it on the inside of here, so I'm going to aim for the inside of here. All right, let's get this where you guys can see it. Come on in close. I'm going to hold this down. We're going to drill right here. And I want this part, there we go. We're going to drill right here. Okay. So, you know, when you're working with pieces like this, you want to get it as close as you can, you know, and match evenly. So this is going to look good. One of them is a little bit higher because that's my fault. It moved while I was drilling. But, so I would have a choice of re-drilling, but I think I'm going to keep it like that. I like the angle. And I'm going to make one more. So I'll be right back with one more. You guys know how to do it. So you could just rewind it and watch the other one. Beautiful. I'm going to go through the first hole and the second when you start getting, sometimes I've done pieces with 20 different rivets in here. You can keep going and going. There we go. See how nice that's going to look? Oh my gosh, beautiful. Okay, let's see. Again, I'm going to have to move this off the table so I can get this work done. And my remnants of the wire is going to go flying because I don't have 3 hands, but that's okay. I've got my glasses on. That's why you wear your glasses. Okay, you guys can see you can see how much I'm riveting with. It's just this tiny little edge here. And I'm just going to use my small, and I'm just going to hit it 100 times. Just plan on hitting it 100 times. And when you think of it that way, you just relax, put your music on. You're in no hurry. It's very relaxing. You're putting your pieces together and just focusing on your work. You could spread these as wide as you want to. You can keep them as tiny as you want to. I usually have some pretty good rivets on the back side. I'm going to go back in, see how that's holding up really nicely. I'm going to go back in and work on this one a little bit more. Voila. So this is a piece where I do not have any damage on both my patinas. This is a great way to keep all your patinas that you want in your work, and it's also perfect for putting together, you know, anything. But this is a pretty cool piece, and you get to see the backside too. Isn't that nice? I'm going to go over all the rules in order, and then I want to show you another cool piece. This was the technique. I want to show you another cool piece on how I can use this. The 5 rules for successful riveting, I have it right here, but I'm going to read them to you right now. So, the wire must fit into the drilled hole securely. Remember I told you it has to be an exact match. The tighter the fit, the easier time you will have for riveting. And when you're using a found object rivet, a draw plate, or a wire, like if you're using, you know, something else, this is a draw plate where you can tell the size of your wire if you need to know. I like using the steel, the 16 gauge when I can. I have used up to 18 gauge for that, but you know, that's like a 60 drill bit, 18 to 60, yeah. When drilling your hole, you have to drill straight up and down. So your drill has to be straight up and down. You can't come in from the side. Make it so hard to do a rivet if you're not straight up and down. Especially when you're doing multiple stacks, you know, and drilling multiple pieces together. Metal sheet, number 3 is metal sheets being riveted together must be drilled together in order to align the holes. Always hammer rivets very, very gently. We always think that we have to go at our metals, you know, at super speed and really hit hard. So gentle. And this is the anvil I showed you that, or the vise that I like when I'm using steel. Number 5 is cut the shank of the wire precisely. You know, when I'm putting it into my vise, if it is too high up in my vise, the rivet will bend over. And if it's too low, you won't get your nail head to form. So number 6 is drill and set only 1 rivet initially, because hammering will shift the metal slightly, moving the holes out of alignment. After the first rivet, counter it by doing another rivet on the other side. So now all of your pieces are down and your piece is stable. Now you can drill as many holes. If I want to put in 10 rivets around there, I can drill all the rest of them as long as my piece is stabilized. So when you're using a wire rivet, using 16 gauge wire and a 1/16 drill bit, snip off the wire with double flush cutters. You have to file the ends flat. Number 2, Prepare the filed wire by inserting into a vise with about 1/4 inch protruding upward. With a finer gauge, you want to use about 1/8 standing up. And then number 3 is gently hammer around the sides of the wire with a ball peen hammer until it forms a nail head. Then remove it from the vise. Use a center punch to dent a piece of metal. Put a slight mark in there to be able to guide your drill inward. Place the 2 pieces of metal together and drill straight through both layers of metal. Boom. Number 5, insert the wire into the hole with the finished nail head and place it on the anvil, as you saw, tightly as I did, standing straight up. Place the flush cutters close to the base of the sheet metal, then raise them only a few centimeters above to snip off. Do not move your work at all. Number 6, work gently around the outside of the extended wire with a small ball peen hammer. The side is secure enough when the wire starts to look like a nail head. And then you have a pretty tight join. You want to keep working it until you get that nice tight join. Once the 2 rivets are set, there will not be any more shifting after that, so you can drill and create as many rivets as you want to. You can file and sand with sandpaper. This book was self-published. There's not much of it left. You might be able to find it on Amazon. But remember, I'm actually working on a whole new body of work, so you're going to be seeing things like that in the future. Hey, you guys, if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and let me know if you want that tool list up here for this particular video.